Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Tuesday Mortgage Coach Mastermind / interview. Today, we have the one and only Todd Duncan. What's up, Todd?
Hey guys, good to see you. It looks a little chilly in San Diego, but I'm doing great. I'm inside and warm, and I want to bring some heat. For you guys today.
We're fired up to do it. So yeah, guys, we are in San Diego. I'm kind of surprised coming from Portland that I needed to put on my Portland vest.
Yeah, he's got the thickest jacket, Texas and Arizona. We're not quite dressed properly.
Arizona right here. So it was funny last night. It was like, I think it was about 63, and Todd's like, it's kind of chilly. And I'm like, I wasn't wearing a jacket. Are you kidding me, bro? And Deborah flew in. So Mortgage Coach community, we are here preparing for the Modern Real Estate Summit, kicking off tomorrow at 8 a.m. We're going to be broadcasting that live out of the American Dream studio, just about 15 minutes north of downtown San Diego. What's up, Craig Sewing? We'll see you in a little bit. So check that out, modernrealestatesummit.com. It's going to be an incredible event. Today, though, we want to interview Todd Duncan. He is one of the speakers at the Modern Real Estate Summit. So Todd, thank you for that. But
thanks for the chance. I can't wait.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate you doing that. For any new loan officers that are tuning in, Todd Duncan is like the godfather of elite performance in the mortgage industry. The Mortgage Coach platform was introduced from the Sales Mastery 25 years ago. Well, actually, it's 24 years. It's going to be 25 years next year. Who's counting? I feel like it's already been 25. And Todd started the Sales Mastery event 30 years ago, three decades ago. And some of the most successful, most elite leaders and top producers in the industry all learned from that stage, have been mentored from that stage, and have mastermind from that stage. So if you're a new loan officer, make sure you're following Todd Duncan on all social media channels. Make sure you're part of his group. And again, he's the man.
That's how I met you guys.
Yeah, I think that's how we all met.
I just don't think there's too many people. There's not too many people.
Dan Keller said it about a month ago. He said at some level, anybody who's succeeding in the mortgage business has a little bit of the TD DNA, and I count that a blessing. I wake up every day and I want to change lives and I want to impact performance, and I have a deep belief that most people can do this business much more efficiently, much more effectively, and have much more fun doing it. So if any of that sounds interesting to any of you, then just follow me at Todd Duncan Official on all social platforms.
Love that. And actually, it was you and Denise at Sales Mastery. How many years ago was that?
2013.
2013. Remember, Todd, we did that
Mortgage Idol.
And I was Randy. I was dressed up with Randy.
Denise
What's up, dog?
You were so funny. What's up, dog? What's up, dog?
Oh my God. I'd like you to pull some of that old footage. I'd like to get some laughs over that. So guys, today the topics are based off of what are the most important things in the market today. And there's two things that we're hearing. Number one, it's never been more important to have great relationships with real estate agents. That means you need to maintain the loyalty and productivity of relationships you already have. And you need to go out and add more realtors because it's a purchase market. So that's a big topic. Topic number two, because rates have started to rise, and it happens every time they do, people, it's not that they're rate shopping more, because we live in this omni shopping. If you just say the word mortgage in your house, someone hears it and it shows up on social media next time you're on social media. It shows up on Facebook, you're getting rates. You do a search on Google, you're getting rates and you're getting promoted. So people are always shopping, but when rates are going up, people are grinding more. They're like, hey, I saw a lower rate than that. Hey, last time you talked to me, the rate was lower than that. So rate shopping is a big deal. How can you proactively reduce it? And when the grind does happen, how can you have a better conversation? Because there are loan officers that still have better conversations and win more. So guys, where should we start? Should we start with realtors?
Sure, let's do it.
So let's start with realtors. And Todd, I don't know how you want to do this, but do we want to get right into some scripts, or do you want to get into some philosophy around it with real estate agents?
Let me do a little philosophy, and then we'll jump right into it. And so, Dave and Todd and Deborah and I were talking before we went live, and one of the conversations that we started to have was the conversation of how do you really approach real estate agents, and how do you set appointments effectively, and if there is an objection to meeting, how do you handle that objection? And so in order to have that conversation, we have to just pause for a moment and kind of bring a couple things to light. And so one of the things that is really, really important in any selling scenario is the idea that you are presenting a value exchange that is very hard for the real estate agent in this case to reject. And so at any time that you're thinking about objections, you're thinking about resistance, you're thinking about, I want to think it over, or you're thinking about, I already have a lender, or blah, 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 blah. The first thing you have to do is you have to really ask, what am I bringing to the party that's unique, that's different? And I think that really, it changes two things. It changes the perception reception of the agent when they are notified that you want to have a meeting with them. And more importantly, it changes your own psychology. So let me paint a picture. We will ask people all the time, have you ever experienced call reluctance? And if you have, put your hand up, right? And everybody in the room puts their hand up. And I ask a simple question: what is call reluctance based on? And I just pause with that and I let people try to figure it out. And oftentimes you hear the word fear, okay? If that is a word that comes to mind, like when you're ready to try to land one of the top real estate agents in your marketplace, you generally go into fear for one of two reasons. Because in the past, you haven't had as much success as you would like setting appointments. And you take the past and you portray it on the future, which is an event that hasn't even happened yet. And so we tell mortgage professionals, don't give your power away to an event that hasn't happened yet. Don't give your power away to setting an appointment with somebody and automatically think that they're going to say no. If that's your perception, then you need to change the value proposition. And that's critical, because what happens is when you change the value proposition, your own psychology changes. You go from being fearful to being not only excited. Imagine a world in which there's no call reluctance anymore. There is simply this phenomenon called call excitement. Well, call excitement only exists when you have something of value that is going to be near impossible for somebody that you are approaching to reject. So that's the equation as we start kind of thinking about the process. Everybody can do a loan. Everybody's got technology. Everybody has a compendium of interest rates and products. And there really isn't any unique differentiation going on. And now that refis are gone, for the most part, and we're back to a purchase market, you're going to be compared to a whole bunch of people that are in the same position you are, and you're reapproaching the marketplace. You're trying to re-engage with people you've kind of left behind. You're trying to add new ones, as Dave said at the very, very start. But I'm just going to say, fundamentally, if you don't have value that is measurable, then you will have call reluctance and you will lose the appointment setting game more than you should. It doesn't mean you'll lose them all, but it means that you will. Because if I have a relationship with a lender and I'm an agent and I've worked with this lender for 7 years and you're trying to do business with me, what are you going to bring to the party that this 7-year relationship isn't producing? And that's a very, very important question for you to think through before you do any approaching. And so that's the idea at the very start. Massive value. When I was a brand new loan rep, my mentor said, every time you make a call on a realtor, try to give 10 times more value than you're going to take. So if I'm taking a $1,000 commission as a loan officer in 1981, that means I have to produce $10,000 in value. Well, the best way to do that in today's market is to produce a referral, a seller referral, or a buyer referral that's worth $10,000 a side based on the average sales price, in America today. And when I am armed with a business building growth strategy for people that I'm going to approach, Then we're in a unified kind of relationship where then they are the ambassador of the rate game. Once you have the agents dialed in and once you understand the importance of that value exchange, then they're going to help you with the buyer eliminate the interest rate. There's in social science and neuro-linguistic programming, there's three things we teach in the High Trust Sales Academy. One is called the embedded command, which is where you're telling somebody to do something. The second is called the pattern interrupt, which is where you're asking a question that changes the way the prospect is thinking. And the third is a power phrase where you state what you can do that the competition cannot do. So if I'm a realtor and you and I are doing business together, then I can say to a borrower, and this is what I taught my realtors. I can say, to a borrower, I appreciate the fact you're getting ready to look for homes. This is where I start with all my clients. In order to provide a superior home buying experience for you, I ask all my buyers to speak with Todd Duncan, the mortgage professional I use at ABC Financial. He's not the cheapest, but he's the best. That's a pattern interrupt. He's not the cheapest, but he's the best. Spending 15 to 30 quality minutes with him will help me help you get the best home for the best price and put you in a strong, almost like a cash buyer negotiating position to get your offer to the top. And he'll be able to save you tens of thousands of dollars over the life that you own homes through his mortgage management strategy using a cool technology called blah, 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 right? When you want to retire, when you want to be financially free, how long are you going to live in the home, all those things that Mortgage Coach does. So I guess that's my starting comment. We've got to understand that if you give, you'll get. If you're looking to get, you'll lose. And that's the simple formula for high trust selling. Be a giver, not a taker.
So I have a lot to say, but before I do, anything you'd like to ask or say?
I mean, that was just mic drop. There you go. Y'all
Well,
practice that.
that's the script that you all want your realtors to have. So Todd, how would you approach your real estate agent with that script saying, hey, you suck, can you do a better job? Like, what's your script for the loan officer who's nervous to ask that of their partner?
Well, tomorrow at the Modern Real Estate Summit, I'm going to be talking about the one conversation that every loan rep and agent has to have. And it's a premature question to answer right now, Todd, because we got to get into how do you set the appointment, because then that changes what we do. But essentially, tomorrow, what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about answering 3 questions every single week with your partners. And the competition doesn't do this. How can we be more efficient together? How can we generate more business together? And what needs do you have that I need to meet or meet better? And you need to ask me what needs you have that I need to meet better. And you need to ask me what needs I have that you need to meet better. That's the progressional conversation that a healthy partnership has. So how can we be more efficient together? It's very interesting, Todd, that over the last several weeks, I've talked to about 11 buyers, and it didn't feel like half of them at least had really been prepped for what to expect from me in the conversation. Can we just chat for a minute about how you referred these buyers? What did you say and how did you say it? And then all we have to do, Todd, is we have to, if I love you, you love me, I'm attracted to you, you're attracted to me, you're an agent, I'm a loan rep, I'm bringing value, you're bringing value. Why would we not want to have that conversation on how to fix that? Because we're going to be able to do the same thing for them. I mean, if they're going to be one of 5 agents talking to a seller, they're going to have the same stuff going on as we just laid out that a loan rep's going to have approaching a realtor. And it's the same kind of deal. How do you get people engaged? And you don't do it by talking. You do it by creating a perception of value that is impossible to reject. And I can deep dive on this as we go, but let's talk about appointment setting right now. Okay, so in appointment setting, I want to, at the very least, have a bulletproof phone call with a referral with a multi-$1,000 idea. So I would call a real estate agent and Deborah would say, hello, it's Deborah. And I would say, hey, Deborah, it's Todd Duncan with Plaza Home Mortgage. I was given your name by Ron Songrath at First American Title. He wanted me to introduce you to an exciting business building idea. It takes about 60 seconds. Is this a good time? Okay, now I'm not doing a high trust interview right now. All I'm doing is I'm calling you with a 45-second script with two things that you will appreciate. Ron Songrath thinks we should do business together. And in 60 seconds, I can share an idea with you. And if you like it, let's meet and talk about what a business partnership could look like. So if Deborah says, oh, I love Ron. Yeah, what's the idea? Deborah, it's a super exciting idea. It's called the Consumer Referral Program. We offer it to agents exclusively to who we have been referred. By design, it brings you seller and buyer leads every single month for you to list, show, and sell property to. We only offer this to a few realtors, and Ron thought you should be one of them. Do you like that idea? So did I just share an idea that's worth thousands of dollars in less than 60 seconds? And the answer is yes. Okay, now if you heard me and you're Deborah and you go, wow, one seller a month could be 12 grand a month, I'm already in. If I get two sellers a month, then it's 24,000. If I get four sellers a month, then it's 48,000. You mean to tell me Ron Songrath wanted you to call me because you want to give me $48,000 a month? Let's meet. That's irrefutable. There's not an agent on the planet that can reject that. Here's the flip side that's bad. Do not give that to a low producing agent. The bigger the gold, the bigger the whale. The more value you have, the more you should go for the best. Anybody can do business with everybody, but high trust selling is about doing business with less people. Be more to few, so many will want you. If you're less to many, few will need you. And that's the idea. So until you get to 100% appointment setting success, you got to work on your scripts. But that script I just gave you, nobody's going to say no to that. And tomorrow on the Modern Real Estate Summit, I'm going to teach you how to bring them those buyers and sellers.
So first of all, I can't wait to see what you do tomorrow. I want to make sure everyone heard something that Todd said early in the conversation. He talked about the words, about your self-talk, and how much the words you say to someone matter, and then the words, the conversation you have. You know, I always refer the 4 agreements to new salespeople, because one of the 4 agreements is be impeccable with your words. And so many people don't make enough prospecting because they're negotiating with themselves and they're not confident. And then when you do make the calls, you use either too many words, you don't use the right words. I also want to remind folks that you can't fake this stuff. You need to feel valuable. You need to feel like my advice makes a difference. And a couple strategies I just want to share for the mortgage coach community that would help you call a realtor with confidence saying, hey, I got a big idea, let's meet. It's the CMA a day. You know, that strategy could be something that helps you drive incremental revenue for an agent. Jeremy Forcier is killing it with that strategy. The move up analysis, your ability to meet with families, show them the numbers, and motivate them. Hey, it's time to move up, which means that's a listing for an agent and a move up buyer for an agent. They love that. But if you are not skilled at these strategies, if you cannot have these conversations with families at a level of excellence, you're not gonna be as powerful and compelling as, let's say, a Jeremy Forcier, a Dan Keller, and some of the people that we're going to have on the Modern Mortgage Summit tomorrow. Shayla Gifford is going to share a cost of waiting strategy and how she's using that with realtors to help realtors sell more homes. And let me tell you, her words, her passion is going to be different because she's had that conversation. She's excellent at that. So one more thing, and then I'm going to hand it off to you guys. I want to remind you guys, this is a mastermind. So if you have questions for Todd or for one of the 3 of us, put those in chat. Also, we have this with social media. So the more likes we get, the more views we get. So if you got a takeaway, give it a like. Whether you're watching this in YouTube or you're watching this live in Facebook, give us live, ask questions. And Deborah or Todd, anything you want to comment on or questions we want to ask Todd?
Well, just to piggyback on what you just shared, Dave, if you're a branch manager, if you're a CEO, this video that you're watching right now is something I would have playing at your next team pipeline meeting. And then embed in the process, practicing these scripts and then implementing the process of how you're going to actually give the referral back. But it takes practice. And I don't think that we do enough practicing. We get in the game and we get into it and we've had a couple good years, but then what are you doing? And are you setting time aside to up your value? And do you even know what your agents find valuable? I think sometimes we assume, even with clients, and we put things out there that we think are valuable, but is that really what they need right now?
So Deborah, you said something I want to put an explanation mark. I will never forget when I met Sean Benosian for the first time about a year ago. And for people who don't know who Sean is, he is the #1 loan officer in America. He's the #1 leader at Guaranteed Rate. And he's got a team of 50. They're going to do $2 billion in loans this year. And he had decided that they wanted to roll out Mortgage Coach and adopt Mortgage Coach. And I was like, how are we going to train you guys? How are we going to do this? And he just really casually, oh, no problem. We train every day. I ended up finding out they train 4 days a week. So that's his culture. We win as a team. We train daily. So it's no coincidence he's become the #1 biggest, loan officer, biggest team in America. They train daily. So really good point. What you're listening to right now, don't just, oh, I listened to this, I heard it, I made a note. You got to put this into action. And if you're a leader on this call and you manage people, you manage a region, you manage a branch, you manage yourself, you got to make sure that you take the keys to this call and you put it into action. Todd, anything you want to call out at this point?
Well, I mean, I just love that story about Sean. I think it's just someone's asking about the scripts, printed scripts. Nope. Go back, rewatch it, and write them down, right? That's how you're going to learn it, internalize it. And I just can't wait for tomorrow to see what you have to say, because you're making the conversation easier. So any loan officer who attends tomorrow with their real estate agent is going to now be able to have a conversation with them that you set up for them so masterfully. So I can't wait for that.
So I do want to add.
Let
me add one thing before it goes. So I agree with what Todd said. For those that you want us to give you the written scripts, you do need to re-listen to this and write it down. But I had Jeremy Forcier and Dan Keller on this same topic on Friday, and now we have Todd Duncan. So I'm going to collaboratively write a LinkedIn article with Todd, with Jeremy and Dan, and we will give you some notes. But even if we put, let's just say I take some of Todd's scripts and I put them in writing. Let me listen carefully, guys. You can't just steal those and you got to make them your own. You need to write them down. You need to put your personality around it. And then you know what you need to do? Every person you meet, it needs to be organic and it needs to be natural. So don't just recite these things like the Pledge of Allegiance. Make sure you make them yours and make sure you have the elements of those. Todd, anything you want to add to that?
Oh, like a ton. So the first thing I want you guys to understand is what Deborah brought up, and that is you've got to be game ready. So we have 230 mortgage professionals registered for our High Trust Sales Academy in Dallas the first week of December. In those 4 days, I go through a 450-page workbook on how to run a mortgage practice profitably. When we get to the appointment setting section of the academy, everybody has to set an appointment, and we spend 3 hours on a 90-second appointment setting script. And I pick somebody randomly. There's no way I can predetermine who it is, and there's no way you can predetermine that it's going to be you. And what's at stake is if you can set an appointment with me using that script, I will give you $1,000 cash on the spot. It is amazing how much study people try to do when they realize that they're going to get $1,000. But that appointment setting script is worth $1 million a year if you do it right. So you've got to own the idea that your words matter, and you have to own the idea that you should never sound scripted. It should be part of a sales dialogue. You're never in high trust selling, you're not doing anything to anyone. You are having what is legitimately a conversation that most of your competitors never have. And that's why it's so special. So I would say that, and we can replay the video and download some of these scripts. But to Dave's point, when I was a loan rep, I spent 100 hours on the 10 most frequent objections. I wrote responses for those 10 objections. I recorded them on an audio cassette tape 10 times per objection. I put the tape in my car, and everywhere I went, I listened to me handling objections. And the objections go away when the value goes up. You need to write that down. Objections go away when value goes up. Objections go away when value goes up. Objections go away when value goes up. And so the smart operator says, I don't want the objection and then add value. They say, I'm going to add value and never get the objection. And that's critical thinking, absolutely critical, game-changing thinking.
So I want to do this, Todd, and this whole call is dedicated to meetings with realtors. And I think we've given a great script that you can use to go out and get meetings with realtors. And we've given you some strategy and script around how you want to be referred by an agent. If there are other specific conversations and scripts that you want around realtors, guys, put it in comments. But I do want to transition to rate shopping, because Todd had said a few things a few minutes ago that I think really create a great transition. And you talked about value going up, like objections go away when value goes up. So there is a part of rate shopping is the value you create from the minute you talk to a family. And I created Mortgage Coach. Many of you know this now because I've said it from stage many times, but the company name is Wow Tools. So when Mortgage Coach was created, it was all around the concept that I wanted to create a wow in the mind of a consumer. And often the consumers would actually say wow out loud, like, wow, I never knew that before. Wow, no other loan officer has told me this before. Wow, I've never thought of a mortgage like this before. That is the goal. So, let's transition, if you're okay with it, Todd, into rate shopping. How can we proactively reduce it so that we don't even get into it? And then before we end this conversation, I want to make sure that, hey, rate shopping still happens even when you create massive value, because there is a percentage of the population that wants the cheapest mortgage. So let's get into proactively how to reduce it, and to reactively how to negotiate when it happens. You cool with that?
All right. Yeah, but before we do that, I want to put a couple of exclamation points on the realtor piece. Even if you approach with value like I just recommended, you still may have objections. Like Deborah could come back to me and say, that sounds interesting, but I need you to know I'm already working with a lender. Okay, so I've got to right then and there say, Deborah, I appreciate that, and I actually was aware of that, and I'm not calling you to ask you to sever your relationship with that lender. I'm calling you because Ron thinks we should just sit down and get together to discuss a seller and buyer lead gen strategy for you. If ultimately I become your lender, great. But otherwise, I want to meet with you to share this strategy with you. And she's going to go, what? Because I'm not threatened by your lender. I'm not threatened by that relationship. And if I studied you, I already know who you work with. So I want to be at that kind of level. When somebody says we have an MSA agreement with the lender, we have an in-house lender, whatever it is, I'm just going to go, that's fantastic. I knew that. Let me ask you a question. Does your in-house lender bring you 10 to 12 transactions a year that are commissionable to you? And the answer 100% of the time is no. So then I come back and I say, would you like to work with a lender that brings you 10 to 12 additional transactions for which you're compensated per year? And they say yes. And then I say, great. I'd like to meet with you this week, spend 30 to 40 quality minutes with you, sit down, learn what you look for in a lender, tell you a little bit about our value propositions, and see if it makes sense to do business together. You got to be able to roll with objections. I appreciate this. It sounds great, but I don't have time to meet. And then I say, so wait, I want to make sure I understand this. You don't have time to meet with me and receive 10 to 12 additional transactions a year. What would that do to your schedule? If you had an additional 10 to 12 sides coming in a year, would you work less? Yeah, great. So let's get together, whether you think you have the time or not. At the end of 30 minutes, if you don't think it's valuable, all you risked was 30 minutes. But if it is valuable, which I know it'll be valuable, then your life will never be the same. This is how you have to roll with objections and conversation. Don't let people shut you down, but you can't argue. you can't, well, what do you mean you have another lender? Or you can't do any of that. You gotta hear it, you gotta own it, and you gotta roll with it. Okay. So the reason why I wanted to give you those points is there's about 7 objections that agents can still give you. And even if value is high, you need to know what those are, and you need to be able to respond to them. Now, when we go to the buyer piece, this is super, super important. I need you to understand, as you build relationships with your agents, that you need to teach them the pattern interrupt. And the pattern interrupt is something that they say that interrupts the buyer's thinking. So let's say the buyer already has a lender, great. Let's say they are already pre-approved somewhere, great. Okay, let's say that they are just getting into the home hunting process. So if I'm an agent, I have to answer each one of those. I appreciate the fact that you're already approved at. As part of my 5-star service experience, I ask all my buyers to speak with the lender I use at Plaza Home Mortgage. His name is Todd Duncan. And spending 30 quality minutes with him will help me help you get the best home for the best price. And he can negotiate a mortgage strategy with you that will save you thousands and thousands of dollars compared to any other lender, and put you in the ultimate position of the mortgage working for you instead of you working for it. I'm trying to present enough value as an agent where if I use that pattern interrupt, the buyer's going to go, well, sure, I should have that conversation. I mean, I'm approved, but right. And so we have to get the pattern interrupts going. Now, here's some rules on working with borrowers. Dave and I are in sync. Todd Bookspan, Deborah, we're all in sync on this idea that if we're going to reduce the conversation around a rate differential or a perception about low interest rates, we also have to master a pattern interrupt. Okay. And the pattern interrupt is to get a discussion away from interest rates and into goals and dreams. Every buyer buying a home has goals and dreams. If you do not connect with goals and dreams, you will be driven to respond with economics and dollars. So when we did our interview, Dave, 8 weeks or so ago, and you did a LinkedIn write-up on it, we were talking about pattern interrupts and awareness questions, right? And so I would like to recommend to all of you that you understand the concept of story selling. Story selling is, most lenders will be happy to quote you an interest rate. How we are different is we want to make sure we integrate that rate and that mortgage into a long-term strategy that serves your investment, financial, payment, equity, cost, and tax objectives. That's a pattern interrupt right there, right? And so if I do something like that, then people start to think, interesting, I had no idea that all that could be part of this discussion. So when we look at this, we look at a rule. There's 2 rules I'll give you right now. Here's rule number 1. Never talk about interest rate without creating and establishing value. If you ever talk about interest rate without creating and establishing value, interest rate could be and probably will be too high, because somebody will always be lower than you. Part of your value proposition is what you do with TCAs. Part of your value proposition is what you do with mortgage strategy. Just those 2 words, mortgage strategy, are pattern interrupts. You can move from this idea of, most lenders are happy to quote you a rate because they're a lender. I'm a home loan strategist. I can't quote you a rate without discussing with you strategy. And once we discuss strategy, then I'm happy to give you all the different payment and cost options, of which I know you'll be happy with at least 1 or 2 of them. That's the discussion that needs to happen. The second rule, whenever you get pushed for price, deflect. Okay, and let me just let that sink in for a second. Whenever you get pushed for price, deflect. Deflect is not ignore. Deflect is to position. So here's how it sounds. So you're with a borrower and they say, so I'm just curious, talking with a bunch of my buddies, and they all are buying homes right now. Just curious as to what your interest rate is on a 30-year fixed rate loan. Okay, so that's about as real as it gets, right? So I'm going to reply and I'm going to say, I'm glad you asked that. There's a lot of ways to answer that question, but before I do, that's deflection. But before I do, or before we talk about that, you just get those two responses in your head, and then you throw in one of 20 game-changing questions. So, what's your interest rate on a 30-year fixed rate loan? There's lots of ways to answer that question, but before we have that discussion, help me understand what's important about this home loan to you. I'm just going to change it. I know we're going to talk about price. I know we're going to talk about rate. But I'm not going to talk about it now. Because if I talked about it now, I may miss completely what you're actually looking for. And so, Dave, these two rules are huge. Never discuss rate or fees without establishing and creating value. Otherwise, price is going to be too high, rate's going to be too high, and always have a price to advice transition. You got to answer it. I was telling Dave a couple of weeks ago, we were doing a little interview together, and I told him that one of our elite members, and we have 24 elite people we work with as a group every year. If you think you're elite and you're interested in being part of the 2022 program, just go to toddduncan.com/elite. You have to fill out a membership application. You have to be considered by my board, and it's a very, very sanctified kind of group of people that work together. But I was asking him, I said, what's one of the greatest breakthroughs you've had with borrowers on rate discussion? And he said, the beauty of Mortgage Coach is I can screw with everybody's brain. I said, what's that mean, Tom? And he goes, no, seriously, because of Mortgage Coach, I'm able to say something that stops people in their track. And that's the goal when you're working with buyers and you're working with rate shoppers. And I need to say this again. If your agent relationships are strong, you're not going to get shopped as much. If you have other business verticals like financial planners and insurance and wealth managers, you're not going to get shopped as much. You're not going to get negotiated as much. High trust referrals don't negotiate as much as no trust referrals. It's super simple, right? So I said to Tom, so Tom, what if I just asked you an interest rate question? And he goes, let's do it. And I said, okay, so Tom, what are your interest rates on 30-year fixed rate goals? 30-year fixed rate loans. And he said, without blinking an eye, he said, I can't answer that unless I know when you want to achieve financial freedom.
Boom.
You want to talk about a mic
Boom.
drop, right?
Right,
I can't.
Write that down, everybody. That is a new Hall of Famer. We're talking about Tom Sherman, I assume.
Yeah. He's been in our elite group for 3 years, and he's just a stud. You think about that. How as a borrower are you going to move from that question to, no, seriously, just tell me what your interest rates are? It's almost malpractice. It's almost malpractice for you to ever quote a rate unless you know what people are trying to achieve. I can't go to the doctor and say, hey, doc, I hurt. And the doctor says, here, drink this, you'll feel better. You can't say to a borrower, 2 3/4 and 2 points. All right, well, I talked to somebody else earlier, blah, 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 blah. You got to hook them. You got to give them something that, nobody is bringing to the table. I had another person that loves to play around with this. And we were talking about what are your favorite responses to people that want rate quotes. And he said it stops them every single time, which, by the way, guys, this is the goal. This is the goal, to stop the borrower in his or her tracks, right? So I go, Jim, what are your interest rates on 30-year fixed rate loans? And he goes, it all depends on your down payment. And so the borrower kind of stops and is a little bit confused. And Jim says, I can give you 0% if you put 100% down. And it was like, it just kind of shakes things up, right? It kind of shakes things up. We can do your loan for 0%, just put 100% down, and people, come on. Well, and it starts to open the conversation. Or I can say, but before we talk about that, what's most important to you? Rate, payment, or total cost of borrowing? That's an awareness question, and it confuses them. It's a pattern interrupt. Well, what do you mean? And as soon as they say to you, what do you mean? You're in the driver's seat and you get to have a different conversation. Somebody comes up to you and they call and they say, I'm interested in a rate quote on a blah, blah, blah. And you go, fantastic. What are some of the goals you're trying to achieve financially in the next 5 to 10 years? And once I know those, I can custom design a home loan solution for you. Custom design a home loan solution for you. Custom design a home loan solution for you. That is Moneyball right there. Just Moneyball. So you got it. That's kind of the deal there. You're never gonna be the cheapest. And you don't want to play that game. You don't want to be in the concession business. You don't want to have to cave. If you create massive value for people and you're changing their life emotionally, the economics don't really matter. And we said that when we had our last conversation around conversational productivity. Make 80% of the conversation emotional and 20% of the conversation economical. And that has to be your rule. If you do that, then you're not going to have buyers shop you, period. They're not going to shop you. And then you have to look at like strategically being unique and different. And being unique and different is, asking questions that the competition doesn't ask. I've said that, to you guys as a group repeatedly. You can, before I give you a quote on a 30-year fixed rate loan, what do you feel is the highest payment with which you will be comfortable? And are you willing to consider any mortgage strategy that will get you there? That's a great question. And I believe this, Dave, I believe that 95% of loan officers lose control if they don't have a question that allows them to stay in control. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Todd, you are on fire, my brother. So you're absolutely killing it. I've got a couple notes that I want to make sure everybody took from what Todd shared. And remember, guys, we're about 18 minutes to being wrapped up. So in 18 minutes, you'll have to ask your questions in text. So if you want to get an audio response to any of your questions, and ask them right this minute, put them down below. And remember to give us a like if you're getting some value from this. So one, I want to make sure you guys wrote down goals and dreams plus strategies delivered in a total cost analysis is value. Strategy will always beat the best rate. So if you are not connecting whatever it is that you're presenting to a family and you're not doing that with a total cost analysis, you're not giving the maximum amount of value, and you're not going to be in the position, one, if they do start rate shopping you, how to tactically navigate that conversation. And you're just going to have a lot more people rate shopping you. I also want to make sure I remind everybody, put a video on it, personally connect, put the numbers together and then add your video with the narration. Make sure that when you put that video and there's that, 1 to 2 minute video, repeat back their goals. You told me your goals and your dreams were this. Make sure you cover if financial freedom by a certain date was part of it. You mentioned that. If you were referred by a realtor or a high trusted person, make sure you say their name so that when they listen to that, because you're going to see that referral source on the total cost analysis, make sure you say their name. So those are some key concepts I want to make sure everybody got from this. Anything else you want to make sure gets called out, guys?
Well, I just go back to Tom's thing, right? I can't answer that unless I know when you want financial freedom, right? I mean, you're asking for scripts and I've got pages of them. I'm taking notes here while Todd's talking.
So Todd,
So, yeah. Hi.
We have the Modern Real Estate Summit. It's tomorrow, and we're talking about value and how you can add value to agent partners. For those watching who maybe haven't gotten their ticket yet, or they have got their ticket and they want to provide value to new relationships, inviting them to this event, what would be your advice or script to getting them there, and then carrying it on each month so that you're consistently bringing them value, whether it's a mastermind setting, but you've seen the lineup and you're speaking. I mean, how would you leverage this event to add massive value to agents?
Well, I mean, if you have time today, I would use tomorrow's event as the catalyst for a year-end business review. I would ask every agent that I care about and value to come join me tomorrow, and then I'm going to call you on Thursday and Friday, and we're going to set up business reviews during the month of November. And you're going to take your highlights, and I'm going to take my highlights, and then we're going to get in a groove together. And the most powerful thing about what you just asked and what I'm answering is this is where you leave the competition in the dust. We have 31,323 surveys completed by loan originators. And I'm going to tell you right now that about 1 in 10 actually have a business development partnership strategy in play with their referral partners. And when we look at the academy, what we tell the people, and what I'm going to do tomorrow in my teaching session is I'm going to say, you guys need to meet every single week for 15 to 20 minutes. I mean, if I'm really going to understand that what we're talking about here today is a fine-tuned machine, a well-oiled machine where this hand and this hand are together. And I'm talking about the lender and the agent. And when you start to realize those 3 questions I threw out, how can we be more efficient? How can we be more productive? And what needs do we each have that we need to focus on building solutions for as a partnership? There's no better thing to do than to come out of the Modern Real Estate Summit and figure out what are we going to do between now and December 31st to make sure that 2022 is gangbusters. That's what I would say. But I need to say something else, Deborah, to what Dave brought up and the whole idea of dreams and goals plus strategy. There's one page in the 450-page High Trust Sales Academy that is in the context of the mortgage planning high trust conversation. And the interesting thing about that is on this page, there are 20 questions that you have to answer with a borrower to really understand what mortgage to recommend and what dreams to help them pursue. And 95% LOs do not know the answers to these questions. They know how long they lived in their home. They know if they rent or own. They know anything. But question 6, which of the following personal goals are most important to you and your family as you head down this path? And 95% of loan officers can't answer that question. Do you know the 10 most important goals that your buyer has as they head down the path of home ownership? The answer is no. All you really know is can they afford to get a loan? And that's the part that we're trying to drive at, is if you don't know the personal stuff, you're going to be pushed into the rate game.
So Todd, for anyone that wants to learn about your coaching, whether it's your regular coaching or elite, or they want to get on the waiting list, I know you don't have any more seats for the High Trust Academy, but if they want to engage with you, what is the best link for folks to go to?
So I think if you want information on the Academy and join the wait list, just go to toddduncan.com/High Trust Sales Academy. You'll see it under resources. You can just hit that tab and click down and just put your name on the waiting list. And if it opens up, we're trying to get more ballroom space. It's already at 230 people. And if we can get more ballroom space, we can probably take an additional 30 people. If we don't, then it's people not showing and confirming in the last week. So that'd be number one. And if you want to explore what a coach could do for you, just go to toddduncan.com/coaching. You can see it right there. All 3 coaching levels are described. And, guys, what we're talking about here, and I can't say a lot about this yet because it's kind of a QT kind of deal, but I'm doing something with a loan originator And last year, this originator referred $227 million in purchase or sale contracts to real estate agents. And when you understand what it's like to refer $1 million, $2 million, $3 million in commissions back to your agent network, you have won the game. And you are now, Deborah, to that document you sent me the other day, he who owns the lead controls the destiny of the loan and all the affiliated services. We are entering that mode right now, that if you really want to kick ass with real estate agents, you got to be undeniably worth millions of dollars to them. And until you get there, you don't really have a super unique differentiation strategy. But the good news is if Deborah's a realtor and she gives me a buyer, and I talk about this tomorrow, that buyer is going to be tagged, and that buyer is going to help me build a family tree. And for as long as I'm doing business with Deborah, that initial buyer is bringing business back. Boom, 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 boom. And we are on the precipice of a pivot being mandated. I hate that word, mandated, but a pivot being mandated if you really want to control the destiny of your mortgage career. There's so much happening right now in the space, and the one thing that is holding true is if you don't have value, you're not worth it. Period. End of story. The more value, the better. And people love the idea of getting emotionally kind of rebooted. You know, we're coming out of 2 years of COVID. We don't know when any of this is going to change, but even some of the documentation that I have right now about net promoter scores and things like that. I got one thing just a moment ago.
Hey, Todd, while you're researching that, guys, we got 9 minutes left. So if you have questions, put them down below. Also, Todd, I really want to make sure, because a lot of folks watching this have tickets to the Modern Mortgage Summit and have bought tickets and given away to realtors. So I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but we hired an e-learning manager who has transcribed every single presentation and is creating taking action notes. So we're going to be announcing those during the event, and you'll be able to get those taking action notes, where for every single presentation, you will have the notes for those. And then you pick the ones that you like, and you can have follow-up. So I want to make sure, again, feel free to answer what you have for your net promoter, but knowing that we have those notes and knowing that there's not only value at the live event tomorrow to connect with people, have them at your office, but what are some, I want to give specific tactics and strategies to folks, how to make the most of this event, even after the event, because most of the people who signed up bought a 1-year pass, so they have access to this content. So feel free to answer either the net promoter score, or how would you recommend loan officers use those notes post-event?
Well, we spend 2 hours in the academy talking about implementation, and implementation comes down to probably 6 things. The first 3 that it comes down to is vision, goals, and deadlines. So whatever you hear at the Modern Real Estate Summit or the Mortgage Summit weeks ago, whatever you hear, if it's part of your vision, if it sounds like a goal you want to set, pick a deadline on when you'll get it done. Those are the first 3 things in terms of implementation success. The second 3 things are adoption, utilization, and success measurement. So adoption is, do I believe in an idea? So you've got a bunch of people, 5-minute, 10-minute, presentations tomorrow. Do I believe in that? Do I believe that that is possible? Do I believe in that idea? Because if you don't believe in it, you won't implement it. If I adopt that idea and I believe it, then I'm going to use it. And when we did Irrefutable, the idea of using and doing anything new, you got to be okay with failure. The second irrefutable principle is success can only be built on failure. And so when you use something you believe in, measure it, because you're either producing, number 3, the success outcome you want, or maybe the success outcome that you need to improve. And when you understand that, And then what I would do is I would, I mean, you can make a fortune with 10 real estate agents, and you're gonna hear me talk about this tomorrow. But I would sit down and I would schedule 4 quarterly, 1-day or half-day business reviews with my agents. I'd put them on the calendar right now for 2022. And then I would pick the day of the week and the time of the week. I would have 1 day devoted to partnership planning. And I would set that in motion to have monthly 1-hour reviews all around whatever ideas you guys are deciding to implement together. And so if you go from 4 quarterlies to 12 monthlies and you do a couple bi-weeklies, you have now created super glue in a relationship that will be loyal, that will be responsive, that will be profitable, that will be, I mean, your hardest challenge if you do this should be turning away real estate agents that hear about you, that want to do business with you, but you don't have the capacity to take on any more agents. Now, I want to say one thing, and this may sound like a foreign language, especially coming out of COVID, but this is my last comment, Dave. I have data in front of me right now from 130,000 borrowers. And I'm going to tell you right now that between Q1 of this year and Q4 of this year, under a topic, application method, and this is going to kill you, but you got to be the first to get after it. This year, 55% of applications taken were taken telephonically and are only producing a 66 net promoter score. 43% of applications were taken online and they are producing a 78% net promoter score. Are you ready? Where am I going next, Bookspan?
Zoom?
We got no, because that'd be online, that'd be Zoom, that'd be, you know, telephone, online, whatever. Where am I going?
Face to face.
Okay, so face to face this year. Are you ready? 2%. 2% of all applications this year were done face to face, but have an 86 net promoter score. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Screw COVID. Get back to face, start doing what nobody else is doing. If you need a mask, use a mask, get back to face, because today in 2021, we are being told that it is the most effective operational excellence customer service strategy on the planet, and nobody's doing it. Now, if you want to put this in perspective, prior to COVID, face-to-face was 6% of applications, and it produced an 80%. So what are we seeing? We're watching a net promoter score 2 years ago at 80 go to 86 in a pandemic because people are thriving on human connection and they want more of it. So just be the first to do it. This is very fresh data and I haven't shared it with anybody. I'm sharing it with you guys first.
So Todd, what I love about that and you talking about implementing. Yeah.
Drop.
Mic drop. You know, if it weren't for Sales Mastery, when I went there for the second time, I bought my first Win by Noon planner, and it was a game changer for me because there's also a real estate agent edition. And what I had done is I bought each of my top real estate agents, I bought them a planner and myself a planner, and I was implementing the Todd Duncan strategies where we would meet. I did it once a month. And so when you talk about tracking and measuring and asking those 3 critical questions and then scheduling out those quarterly meetings, it's important for you guys to know when you buy this planner for yourself and for the real estate agent, it comes with this really cool, I'm old school and new school, but you get this quarterly or this annual cardstock. I know it's kind of hard to see, calendar where it's separated by quarters. And so we would lay this out and we would do exactly what Todd just said. When are we going to meet? What day? What time? Let's put it in our calendars so that we're working on our business together as partners, not just in the business. And so I highly recommend those of you who are watching this, go ahead and order. Go to winbynoon.com, order 10 real estate edition planners, order yourself one. It's super cheap. I don't even know how much it is for the subscription for the year, but it doesn't cost you anything when you look at the rate of return, and be intentional and make this your gift for them. It's, you know, Christmas is right around the corner. It's November, 'tis the season. And then this puts accountability around everything that you're about to learn tomorrow. And what Todd just said, this helps you execute that implementation piece where most people are great at learning and just then don't apply what they've learned. So take action right now.
I feel like I don't have to say anything else.
Sorry.
I mean, like, what else is Dave's hit me to say something? I'm like, well, no. Deborah just said it all.
I'm telling you, because of Sales Mastery, and I met you two, I would have never been where I'm at today without all of you here. But you have to take action. I love to learn. I'm a great student, but I'm also a doer. I have failed miserably, but those failures are what led to my success. And so if you're watching this right now, choose to make the decision. Make the decision to buy. I don't care if you're hosting the event tomorrow or not. If you haven't bought a ticket yet, host your event next week or in 2 weeks. You don't have to do it tomorrow if you feel like that's rushed. Buy yourself a ticket, host the event, go to Win by Noon, buy a bunch of planners, and take action so that 2022 will be better than your year this year or last.
All right, guys. So we are at the top of the hour. Thank you for everyone that tuned in. Todd, you brought so much gold today. I want to remind folks, you know, if you got value from this, give it a like, but also go out and check out Todd Duncan's coaching. We put a link down below. Just the conversation you have with one of his experts will be a valuable conversation. You'll learn about their coaching and you will get value from that conversation. So make sure you check it out. Todd, super grateful for all the time you make for the mortgage coach community. Thank you for the speaker at the Modern Real Estate Summit and the Modern Mortgage Summit. And again, just thank you for the community you've built. It continues to add value and elevate the mortgage industry. I'm grateful, brother. Thank you.
Well, and I'd say
You bet, guys. Fun working with winners.
On behalf of myself and everyone else you've impacted in this community, thank you for being you. We're super grateful.
All right, everybody.
See you guys.
No, all right. This is a wrap, everybody. Take care. Have a great day. And we'll see a lot of you tomorrow on the Modern Real Estate Summit. Take care, y'all.
Can't wait.
Thanks, Todd.
Yep.